was going to ask you about rocket ships. Since you work in a rocket factory, right? What sort of things did you do in the rocket factory for a start?
My factory was glamorous, but the job I was assigned to was not glamorous. My job was to test a pressure gauge.
What did it kind of represent, though? This whole
Chinese love technology, the new technology, cutting edge technology. And if you've been to Shanghai, you will see all these modern high-rises, very modern, funky architecture. They are probably the manifesto of China's leap to modernity.
I used to read 2000 AD. And the future, and this was a comic book I used to read when I was 8 years old. And the future was always totalitarian because they had uniforms on and space helmets, and they had a captain who ruled. This is what it was going to be in outer space.
So many things now come to my mind. First of all, China still there's no democracy in China, but on that hand, China also people now enjoy a great deal more of personal freedom. In my book, I described how every month all women workers had to queue up to virtually show blood to prove we were not pregnant. Just example what kind of a controlled existence we had. But Chinese people today enjoy a lot more personal freedom. And certainly plenty of opportunity to make money, but if there's no democracy. So it's a very confusing place. You're talking about openness, internet. We have internet, millions of people now internet users, but the internet also is controlled.
Yes, they're trying to control it.
So it's a very confusing and confused place.
Yeah, I was going to say, 'cause the whole concept of what the future has, because on your book you have that the brilliant worker, the genius worker, striding forward to a great, glorious future where everybody has enough to eat and everybody gives to community according to their ability and so on, which in a strange sort of way was also what the capitalist dream also was, which was this space society. You're going to Mars and setting up communities and having big engineering projects and so on. It was all seemed to be part of the same kind of vision that everybody had of the future, and it hasn't happened. The 21st century has actually been the iPod, and the phone.
Yeah. But anyway, we're talking about a title. The book is called Socialism is Great.
Yeah. I
have to say I didn't come out with the title. My publisher came out with the title. They think it's a selling title and eye-catching. It's actually, I hope it's not misleading in any way. It's not a boring book about
I think it's very timely now because with the collapse of the capitalist system as we know it, perhaps this is it will be seen as an alternative.
I don't know, but anyway, that's Socialism is Great. It's actually a title for a song. Before on July 1st, our party's birthday, we always had revolutionary songs competition. So this is one of the must-sing songs.
And can you sing it?
Oh, yeah, of course. I can
you sing it now?
It's not very pretty.
I'll hum.
Yeah, no, it goes like something like 社会主义好，社会主义好，社会主义国家人民地位高。Can I remember now? 反动派被得到，帝国主义夹着尾巴逃跑好了。
You see, now then, I've worked in factories, and at my school, I sang a song too.
Yeah.
At the Ambrose Fleming Comprehensive School, I sang, Flemings keep striving, onwards and upwards to the stars. Flemings keep striving, onward and upwards to the stars. And they would have had us build in Shanghai's big tower. It always strikes me as when I read a lot of the Chinese women's fiction that comes out, there's a sense of the middle class griping about having to do menial jobs, and I can think, hang on, most of us in the West also had to do menial jobs. In fact, most people do have to do menial jobs.
But I doubt you had a kind of control we experienced.
Well, probably not.
When I worked at the factory for 10 years, I never got any promotion. For one important reason, my big boss thought I wear a perm. In those days, only people with bourgeoisie outlook in life would wear perm. So I didn't have the correct ideology. So obviously, I didn't deserve a promotion. So just to give you an example.
Well, I had to write cop shows. I couldn't write literary things. The only thing I was allowed to write was cop shows and low lifers in British TV because I was an oik from the bloody comprehensive. China was actually moving on a parallel, quirky course which wasn't as divorced from the West as...
Well, certainly, yes. Yeah. Certainly now China has certainly become increasingly part of the international community. And also I'm glad you found a similarity between the world you're coming from and the factory life I described. And of course, back to this book, it's of course it's a unique, very Chinese book, setting a certain period in the 80s. But also, I hope it has also universal appeal. I talk about my family, my boyfriends, and things people can relate to. And I have to say that although the market has been flooded by China memoirs, many memoirs actually set during Cultural Revolution or before. But this is about 80s. For some reason, for me, it's just the most interesting, fascinating era, because that's the time China began to change. Deng Xiaoping introduced economic reform, which eventually transformed China beyond the economic field. In the 80s, that's the time, women unbutton male's jacket, and people, struggled to break the tight political road.
I mean, Deng Xiaoping was your Margaret Thatcher.
In some ways,
yes, because she in the 80s she changed the face of Britain. The 70s
to a lesser degree, not the same way as Deng Xiaoping transformed
I don't know.
China.
Britain was pretty grim in the 70s. I mean, we had Gary Glitter as a pop star then, and people wore flared trousers. It was disastrous.
In the 80s, there was still air of innocence. There was still lots of passion, a sort of idealism. And today, China has become very commercial. I was a factory worker. I was busy reading misty poems with our friends. We were talking all the time. What was China's future? Would Western style democracy the answer to China? And today, young people are just more interested in making money.
I must admit, travelling through China is really you don't travel through geography, you travel through times, and you can go from one street to another and suddenly you're back in another era. And you're never quite sure.
Yes, in other words, today's China is quite a confusing word.
Do you have to be very careful? Do you feel that you can step on people's toes or anything?
No, I think many people ask me the question. I write articles very critical of Chinese government. But I do not, as long it seems that I'm okay, as long as I do not call myself dissident, which I'm not, if I don't belong to any organization, I write English, seems fine. Yeah. But anyway, that's early days, in case, in the unlikely event that I end up a gulag somewhere in Tibet, please lobby for my case.
Well, on that cheerful note, I think, well, thank you. Thank you for coming to talking to us, and I wish you luck with the book. And
thank you. Yes, I'm doing better than I ever expected.
Oh, I'm sure it will. Like I said, with money flying out of people's pockets, they're going to look for an alternative. They'll be very surprised by